My stepbrother slept with my fiancée and married her. 3 years later, my mother think? My name is Jake, and I'm 30 years old. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. Emily and I had spent countless hours planning our wedding, dreaming about our future, and imagining a life filled with love and joy. But on that fateful day, everything came crashing down in a way I could never have anticipated. It started out like any other Saturday. I woke up early, eager to tackle the to-do list for our upcoming wedding. Emily was out with her friends for a brunch, so I had the house to myself. I decided to take the opportunity to surprise her with a few thoughtful touches, fresh flowers, a handwritten note, and maybe a few small gifts to brighten her day. As I was arranging the flowers, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from my brother Alex. His message was brief and cryptic. "Jake, we need to talk. Meet me at the cafe on Maple Street." I frowned, wondering why Alex would want to meet up. We hadn't spoken much lately, and I assumed it was just a casual catch-up. I finished up my surprise for Emily, then headed to the cafe, not expecting anything out of the ordinary. When I arrived, I saw Alex already sitting at a table, his face pale and drawn. He looked up as I approached, and I noticed the unease in his eyes. "Jake, thanks for coming," he said, voice trembling. "What's going on?" I asked, sitting down across from him. I was trying to remain calm, but a sense of foreboding was settling over me. Alex took a deep breath, his eyes darting around as if he were searching for the right words. "There's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you a long time ago." I leaned in, my heart pounding. "What is it? Just tell me." He hesitated before pulling out a few photographs from his jacket. Slid them across the table toward me. "I didn't want you to find out this way, but you deserve to know the truth." I stared at the photos, my blood running cold. The images showed Alex and Emily together in intimate settings, photos I recognized from various places we'd visited. The smiling faces, the affectionate gestures, they were all a lie. My vision blurred as I tried to process what I was seeing. "Alex, what is this?" My voice cracked with disbelief and anger. Alex's voice broke. "Emily and I, we were together. We've been seeing each other for months. We're married now." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. My world spun, and I felt as if I were about to collapse. I could barely comprehend the gravity of the betrayal. "You're married to her? How could you do this to me?" Alex's face was etched with guilt. "I'm so sorry, Jake. I never meant for it to go this far. It just happened. We both fell for each other, and I know it's wrong. I should have told you sooner." I felt a surge of rage and hurt. "How could you do this? You were my brother. You were supposed to be there for me." Alex looked down, unable to meet my gaze. "I know, and I'm sorry. I've been living with this guilt for a long time. I didn't know how to tell you." The cafe's quiet ambiance felt suffocating. I could hear the distant murmur of conversations, but it all seemed like a cruel joke. My mind raced with memories of Emily and Alex together. Every smile, every shared moment now tainted with betrayal. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I need to go," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Can't be here right now." As I walked out of the cafe, I felt a profound emptiness. The world outside seemed indifferent to my pain, as if it were mocking my suffering. I wandered aimlessly through the streets, trying to make sense of the chaos inside my head. The betrayal wasn't just about Emily and Alex. It was about everything I thought I knew about trust and love. Hours later, I found myself standing at the edge of a nearby park, staring blankly at the serene pond. The tranquility of the scene contrasted sharply with the storm raging within me. I was overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions: anger, sadness, and confusion. I remembered the plans Emily and I had made for our future, dreams we had shared. It all felt like a cruel joke now, a shattered illusion. The pain was sharp and relentless, and I struggled to breathe through the suffocating weight of it. Betrayal cut deeper than I could have ever imagined. I had trusted Alex and Emily with my heart, and they had turned that trust into a weapon. I felt lost, like a ship adrift in a storm, with no clear direction or purpose. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, I knew that I had to confront the reality of my situation. Couldn't run from the pain forever. I had to face it, understand it, and eventually find a way to heal. But for now, All I could do was sit by the pond, lost in my thoughts, and grapple with the fact that my life had been irrevocably changed. The betrayal had unfolded, and I was left to navigate the ruins of my shattered heart. Days after learning about Emily and Alex's betrayal were a blur of pain and disbelief. I found myself drowning in a sea of emotions, unable to find solid ground. My once vibrant life had been reduced to a series of disjointed moments, each one a reminder of the dream that had been brutally stolen from me. I remember the first few days after the revelation vividly. I tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. The facade quickly crumbled. My friends and family reached out, offering their support and condolences. Their words felt hollow. I couldn't bear to be around anyone who might inadvertently remind me of the life I had lost. I needed to be alone, to grapple with the crushing weight of my grief in solitude. I withdrew from everyone. I stopped answering calls and messages, ignoring the well-meaning attempts to check on me. It wasn't that I didn't appreciate their concern. It was that I couldn't stand the thought of being around people who might pity me, or worse, expect me to just move on and get over it. My apartment, once a place of warmth and shared dreams, now felt like a tomb. The echoes of laughter, the remnants of plans for the future, all seemed to mock me as I walked through the empty rooms. I found myself spending hours lying on the couch, staring blankly at the ceiling, unable to muster the energy to even make a simple meal. The bright, hopeful colors of my past life had faded into a dull gray. Sleep was elusive. I would lie awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying the images of Emily and Alex together. The betrayal felt like a gaping wound that refused to heal, its pain relentless and unforgiving. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces, heard their laughter, and felt the deep ache of their betrayal. It was a constant reminder that my life, as I knew it, had been irrevocably altered. I found myself wandering through the city streets aimlessly, trying to escape the crushing weight of my own thoughts. I would walk for hours, sometimes until late into the night, hoping that the physical exertion might somehow numb the emotional pain. But no matter how far I walked, the hurt remained, an ever-present companion that refused to be left behind. My job became a distant memory. I had always been dedicated to my work, but now I couldn't bring myself to focus on anything other than my own suffering. I would sit at my desk, staring at the screen, unable to concentrate. My productivity plummeted, and my colleagues noticed the change. They gave me space, but I knew that their concern was tinged with a mixture of worry and confusion. I was a shell of the person I once was, and I couldn't bear the thought of facing them. I avoided family gatherings and social events, opting instead for isolation. I spent my weekends in the darkened comfort of my apartment, only leaving to grab essentials or to take those long, aimless walks. The solitude was both a comfort and a curse. It allowed me to avoid confronting the reality of my situation, but it also magnified the pain, making every moment of loneliness feel like a personal betrayal. During one of my solitary walks, I found myself at a park that I used to visit with Emily. It was a place filled with memories of laughter and shared dreams. Now it felt like a graveyard of lost hopes. I sat on a bench, watching the children play and families enjoying their time together. The sight was a sharp contrast to the emptiness I felt inside. I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy and sorrow. How could everyone else be so unaffected by the cruelty of fate, while I was left to suffer in silence? The holidays approached, time that was supposed to be filled with joy and celebration. Instead, they became a stark reminder of the life that had been stolen from me. I was expected to participate in family gatherings and holiday festivities, but the thought of putting on a brave face and pretending to be okay was unbearable. I declined every invitation, choosing instead to spend the holidays alone. The silence of my apartment was a cold comfort, the only companion I felt I could truly trust. The loneliness began to erode my sense of self. I felt like a ghost drifting through my own life, disconnected from the person I used to be. The pain of betrayal had become my identity, overshadowing every aspect of who I was. Couldn't remember what it felt like to be happy or hopeful. The dreams I had once held close were now just distant echoes, drowned out by the relentless waves of despair. One evening, as I sat alone in the dark, my thoughts turned to Emily and Alex. I wondered how they were faring in their new life together. Did they ever think of me? Did they feel any remorse for the pain they had caused? Questions swirled in my mind, unanswered and unanswerable. I imagined them living happily, their lives moving forward while mine remained stagnant, a reflection of their betrayal. Despite the overwhelming pain, I knew I had to start rebuilding my life. I couldn't remain trapped in this cycle of isolation and grief forever. The first step was acknowledging that I needed help. It was a hard realization to come to, but I knew that if I continued down this path, I would lose myself entirely. I reached out to a therapist, someone who could help me navigate the complex emotions I was grappling with. The first session was difficult, filled with tears and raw vulnerability. I talked about my anger, my sadness, and my feelings of abandonment. It was a cathartic experience, but also a painful one. For the first time, I was forced to confront the depth of my hurt and the need to heal. The road to recovery was long and arduous. Each day was a battle against the lingering pain and resentment. I slowly began to re-engage with the world, taking small steps to reconnect with family and friends. The process was slow and filled with setbacks, but I was determined to reclaim my life, piece by piece. As I began to rebuild, I realized that the journey to healing was not just about moving past the betrayal, but also about finding a new sense of purpose and self-worth. The pain would always be a part of me, but it no longer had to define my existence. I was learning to live with the scars, to use them as a reminder of my strength and resilience. For now, the journey was just beginning. The dreams I once held dear had been shattered, but I was finding new ways to piece together a life that was uniquely my own. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to face it, one step at a time. 3 years had passed since the day my life was turned upside down. The intense pain had dulled into a constant ache, something I had learned to live with. I had rebuilt parts of my life, found new routines, and even discovered a tentative sense of peace. But the shadow of betrayal still lingered, occasionally resurfacing to remind me of the scars I carried. It was an ordinary Thursday when the unexpected happened. I was at my favorite coffee shop, a place that had become a refuge during the long, solitary days. I was sipping my coffee and engrossed in a book when I felt a presence that made me look up. There, standing just a few feet away, was my mother. Her appearance was unannounced, and I was taken aback. For the past 3 years, I had kept my distance from family gatherings and events, trying to avoid any reminders of the past. Seeing her here, in this familiar place, was both surprising and unsettling. "Jake," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "May I sit with you?" I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. My heart raced, a mix of emotions bubbling up inside me. It had been a while since we had spoken in person, and the reason for our estrangement was a painful one. I gestured for her to take a seat, my mind racing with questions. As she sat down, I noticed the concern etched on her face. "I didn't mean to intrude," she began, her eyes searching mine for a sign of forgiveness. "I've been trying to reach you, but I understand why you've been distant." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The wounds were still fresh, and any mention of the past stirred up a storm of conflicting feelings. "I wanted to tell you something," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "About Alex and Emily." The mention of their names sent a jolt through me. Even after all this time, the mere thought of them could unsettle me. "What about them?" I asked, my voice steady despite the tumult of emotion. She took a deep breath, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and concern. "Alex and Emily. They're having problems. Their marriage isn't what they hoped it would be." The words hung in the air, their weight pressing down on me. I tried to process the information, feeling a confusing blend of relief and discomfort. Part of me felt a vindictive satisfaction at the thought of them struggling, while another part of me felt a pang of sympathy for the pain they were enduring. "How do you know this?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Did they reach out to you?" She nodded slowly. "I've been in touch with Alex occasionally. He's reached out to me for advice and support. He's not the same person he used to be, and neither is Emily. They've been through a lot." I stared at her, struggling to reconcile the image of the happy couple from my past with the reality of their current situation. "What kind of problems are they having?" My mother sighed, her gaze dropping to her hands. They've had their share of conflicts, and Emily has been unhappy. Alex has been trying to make things work, but it seems that their marriage is falling apart. I think they're both regretting the choices they made. The news was both shocking and oddly soothing. It was difficult to admit, but a part of me felt a sense of justice in their struggles. They had taken something precious from me, and seeing them face difficulties was a bitter consolation. I don't know what to say, I admitted, my voice trembling. Part of me wants to take some kind of satisfaction from this, but another part of me feels inflicted. They hurt me deeply, but seeing them in pain. I stopped, unsure how to articulate the jumble of feelings inside me. My mother reached out and placed a hand on mine. I understand how you feel. It's a complicated situation, and it's okay to have mixed emotions. I just thought you deserved to know. You have every right to feel however you need to. I nodded, taking in her words. The idea of their marital problems was a reminder of the pain they had caused, but it also forced me to confront my own feelings. Was I simply reveling in their misery, or was there something deeper at play? I appreciate you telling me, I said finally. It's just hard to know what to do with this information. She gave me a reassuring smile. You don't have to do anything. You don't owe them anything. What matters now is how you choose to move forward with your own life. We sat in silence for a few moments, each of us lost in our own thoughts. The coffee shop, once a sanctuary of peace, felt charged with the weight of our conversation. I took a deep breath, trying to ground myself in the present, and not get lost in the storm of emotions that the news had stirred up. My mother eventually stood up, her expression a mix of hope and apprehension. I just wanted you to know. I'll be here if you need to talk more. I watched her leave, feeling a sense of closure from our conversation, but also a lingering unease. The information about Alex and Emily's struggles was a powerful reminder of the impact their betrayal had on my life. It was a complex mix of emotions, anger, pity, and a faint sense of justice. As I sat alone in the cafe, I reflected on the new layer of complexity that had been added to my healing process. Pain of betrayal had evolved into something more nuanced. I wasn't sure if I should seek out Alex and Emily, or if I should simply let the past remain where it was. The question of whether to confront them or let go of my anger was a dilemma I wasn't yet ready to face. For now, I took solace in the fact that I was still on a path of healing. The journey was far from over, and while the past would always be a part of me, I was learning to navigate the complexities of forgiveness and self-discovery. The encounter with my mother had stirred up old wounds, but it had also given me a chance to reflect on my own growth and the path I wanted to follow. As I left the cafe, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I had been given a glimpse into the lives of those who had hurt me, and while it was difficult to process, it also offered a chance to reassess my own journey. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was beginning to understand that true healing was not about seeking revenge or finding solace in others' suffering. It was about finding peace within myself and moving forward with strength and resilience. The decision to confront Alex and Emily was not one I made lightly. The news of their troubled marriage had stirred up old emotions and questions, pushing me toward a confrontation that I had avoided for years. I had always hoped that time would heal the wounds, but the truth was that the pain had simply been buried beneath the surface. Now, it was time to face it head-on. The evening I chose to confront them was a cool, crisp one. The sky was a deep blue, and the air had a bite to it, almost as if nature itself was mirroring my internal turmoil. I drove to their house, a place that had once been a symbol of their happiness, but now felt like a battleground, unresolved grievances. The drive was quiet, my mind racing through what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it, and what the potential fallout might be. When I arrived, I took a deep breath and walked up to their front door. My hand hesitated over the doorbell before I pressed it, the sound echoing through the house like a forewarning. Moments later, Emily opened the door, her face registering surprise and then something else. Nervousness, perhaps. "Jake," she said, her voice a mixture of shock and apprehension. "What are you doing here?" I forced a smile, but it felt more like a grimace. "I need to talk to both of you. Is Alex around?" She glanced behind her, then stepped aside to let me in. The interior of their home was pristine, a stark contrast to the chaos brewing in my mind. The familiar sense of home, freshly brewed coffee and the faint hint of lavender, hit me as I walked in. It felt oddly comforting and alien at the same time. Alex appeared from another room, his expression a mix of curiosity and unease. "Jake, it's been a while. What's this about?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady my emotions. "I've heard about your troubles," I said, looking from Alex to Emily, "and I need to talk about everything that happened between us." Emily's face paled, and she exchanged a glance with Alex. "Maybe we should sit down," she suggested, her voice trembling slightly. We moved to the living room, the tension palpable. As we sat down, I could see the strain etched into their faces. It was clear that their once perfect facade was cracking. I couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction at the sight, even as I tried to maintain control over my own emotions. "Look, Jake," Alex started, trying to sound calm but failing to mask the underlying tension. "We didn't expect to see you here, especially not like this." I cut him off, my voice steady but intense. "I'm not here to rehash the past. I need to understand why you both did what you did. How could you betray me like that?" "We were family." Emily looked down, unable to meet my gaze. "Jake, we're sorry. We really are. But the truth is complicated, and we've made mistakes." "Complicated?" I echoed, struggling to keep my anger in check. "You destroyed my life. You took everything I thought I had, and now you're saying it's complicated?" "I need to know why." There was a long pause before Alex spoke, his voice filled with regret. "We never intended for things to get out of hand. It started as something innocent, but it quickly became more. We both got caught up in the moment and made terrible decisions." Emily finally looked up, tears in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you, Jake. It was never about you. It was about our own issues, our own insecurities. We both made mistakes, and we're paying the price." I felt a mixture of anger and sorrow. Paying the price? How do you think I feel? You two are living your lives while I'm still stuck in the aftermath of your choices. Alex shifted uncomfortably. "We didn't realize how deeply we'd hurt you until it was too late. We've been trying to make things work, but it hasn't been easy." A sense of disbelief washed over me. "You think that's enough? You think saying sorry now will fix everything?" Emily shook her head. "No, we don't expect forgiveness. We just wanted you to know that we're struggling too. We've made mistakes, and we're facing the consequences." The conversation shifted to the dynamics of their relationship. They revealed that their marriage had been far from perfect. Alex had been struggling with guilt, while Emily had been grappling with feelings of regret and isolation. Their idealized image of a perfect life had crumbled, leaving them in a state of turmoil that mirrored my own. As they spoke, I could see the cracks in their relationship, unspoken regrets, the failed attempts at reconciliation. It was a sobering reminder that while they had caused me immense pain, they were also suffering in their own way. "We're not asking for your sympathy," Alex said, his voice heavy with emotion. "We just wanted you to know that we're not living a fairy tale. Our marriage is falling apart, and we're both struggling to find a way forward." I took in their words, trying to process the complex emotions swirling inside me. The confrontation had brought up more than just the past. It had opened a window into their current struggles, which were strangely intertwined with my own feelings of betrayal. For a moment, I felt a pang of empathy for them. The hurt they were experiencing now seemed like a reflection of the pain they had inflicted on me. It was a complicated mix of emotions: resentment, compassion, and a sense of vindication. "I don't know what to say," I admitted, my voice softening. "Part of me wants to feel satisfaction at your struggles, but another part of me realizes that we're all just trying to make sense of our lives." Emily reached out, hand trembling. "Jake, we've been trying to move on, but we realize that the damage we've done is profound. We can't change the past, but we hope that in time, we can all find a way to heal." I nodded slowly, feeling a sense of finality. The confrontation had been both cathartic and painful. It had brought hidden truths to light and forced me to confront my own feelings in a new way. The road to forgiveness and healing was still long and uncertain, but the conversation had provided some much-needed closure. As I left their house, I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Confrontation had opened up old wounds, but also provided a glimpse of the complexities involved. The journey ahead was still unclear, but I was beginning to see that true healing wasn't about seeking revenge or holding on to past grievances. It was about understanding, acceptance, and finding a way to move forward despite the pain. The road to reconciliation, both with them and within myself, was just beginning. Confrontation had revealed the raw edges of our shared history and the impact it had on all of us. It was a reminder that while the past could never be changed, the future held the promise of new beginnings and the possibility of healing. As I walked away from Alex and Emily's house, a heavy weight lifted from my shoulders. The confrontation had been draining, yet it had also marked a turning point in my journey. The truth had been laid bare, and while it didn't erase the pain, it opened up a new chapter, one where I could begin to rebuild and find a sense of purpose once again. The weeks following the confrontation were a mix of reflection and tentative steps toward healing. I found myself reevaluating my life, seeking solace in the small, everyday things that had previously been overshadowed by my bitterness. I resumed some old hobbies, took long walks in the park, and reconnected with friends I had distanced myself. Each day felt like a small victory, a step towards reclaiming my sense of self. One evening, as I was walking through the park, I met a woman named Leah. She owned a cozy little cafe on the corner of Main Street, a place I often passed but had never ventured into. Leah was kind and warm, with a smile that seemed to light up the room. We struck up a conversation as I waited for my coffee, and her genuine interest and kindness were a balm to my wounded soul. As weeks turned into months, Leah and I grew closer. Our conversations were filled with laughter and shared stories, and I found myself looking forward to our time together. Leah had a way of making me feel at ease, helping me rediscover joy in the simple moments. Her presence was a reminder that life, despite its hardships, could still hold moments of unexpected happiness. One day, Leah invited me to a small gathering at her cafe. It was a chance for me to meet some of her friends and immerse myself in a community that felt warm and welcoming. As I mingled and shared stories with new faces, I realized how much I had missed being part of something positive and supportive. Leah and I continued to grow closer, and our relationship deepened in a way that felt both healing and exciting. She had a way of seeing the best in people, and her optimism was contagious. With her, I began to see the world in a new light, as if the darkness of my past had given way to a brighter future. Meanwhile, my relationship with my mother had also begun to heal. After the confrontation, we had spent more time together, talking openly about our feelings and the pain that had kept us apart. It wasn't an easy process, but her efforts to mend our relationship were genuine. And over time, we rebuilt the trust that had been broken. Her support and understanding provided me with a sense of closure and renewal. One evening, Leah and I took a walk through the park, the sky painted with hues of orange and pink as the sun set. We talked about our hopes and dreams, sharing our vision for the future. It was during that conversation that I realized how much Leah had become a part of my life, a source of joy and a reminder that love and connection were still possible. As we walked hand in hand, Leah stopped and turned to face me. "Jake," she said softly, her eyes filled with affection, "I've come to care for you deeply. You've been through so much, and I admire your strength and resilience." Her words touched my heart, and I felt a surge of emotion. "Leah, you've brought so much light into my life. I never thought I'd find happiness again after everything that happened, but you've shown me that there's still so much to look forward to." We shared a tender kiss, and in that moment, I felt a profound sense of peace. The pain of the past was still there, but it no longer defined me. I was learning to embrace the present and look forward to the future, knowing that there was still love and happiness to be found. In the following months, Leah and I continued to build our relationship, creating new memories and exploring new possibilities together. Her cafe became a place where we could escape from the world and simply enjoy each other's company. It was a symbol of the new beginning I had found, a place of warmth and connection. One day, as we sat together in the cafe, Leah took my hand and smiled. "Jake, I've been thinking. We've both been through so much, but we've also found something beautiful in each other. I want to continue building a life together, and I hope you do too. Her words filled me with hope and excitement. Leah, I want that too. You've helped me see that there's more to life than the pain of the past. I'm ready to embrace this new chapter with you. Our journey wasn't without its challenges, but we faced them together with a renewed sense of purpose. Past would always be a part of me, but it no longer controlled my future. Leah's love and support had given me a fresh perspective, and I was eager to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. As we walked out of the cafe, hand in hand, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the new beginning that life had offered. The road to healing had been long and arduous, but it had led me to a place of hope and renewal. With Leah by my side, I was ready to embrace the future and build a life filled with love, joy, and new adventures. The story of betrayal and heartache had transformed into a journey of healing and self-discovery. Past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I was no longer the person who had been shattered by betrayal. I was someone who had found strength in adversity and embraced the possibility of a brighter future. As I looked ahead, I knew that the road would continue to have its ups and downs, but I was ready to face it with courage and optimism. With Leah's love and support, I felt a renewed sense of hope and a deep appreciation for the beauty of new beginnings. The future was uncertain, but it was also full of promise, and for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to embrace it with open arms. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. See you next time.